Perfect. Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be interviewing Hana Epstein as she was a former intern here at CELF, and I'm a current intern at CELF. So I'm going to be interviewing her on her experience. So I just don't know if you want to kind of introduce yourself.
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. As Adriana was saying, my name is Hana. I am currently a sustainability specialist at the New York City public school system at the Office of Energy and Sustainability, as you can probably see in my name here.
So one of the first questions was, what department were you interning in specifically?
I was the sustainability education intern
Yeah.
2 summers ago, I guess.
Perfect. And then my next question is, what sparked your interest for wanting to work in the sustainability field?
I don't know if there was like one big thing that really made me interested. It's just been something that I've always loved. I've always loved being outside. I've always loved this earth. If I had to credit it to like one specific instance in my life, it was probably when I was around like 6 or 7 or so. And we were driving from my family's home to my cousin's home in South Jersey. And we were, sorry, my cat is, well, hi everyone, say
No
hello to Vasco.
worries.
He will make an appearance, like I said. Yeah, so we were driving to my cousin's house in South Jersey, and I remember on I-95 South, I believe, we just were going through a whole bunch of like manufacturing parts of the state, and I saw a whole bunch of smokestacks, and that was the first time I ever saw something that like didn't really make sense to me in the natural world. And so I asked my dad like what that was. And he was talking to me about it and talking to me about pollution and how and why air pollution is so bad. And in my core, in my core, I knew that that was a bad thing. So it's always been something that I've loved. And the moment that I learned that people are actually doing things to harm the world that I love is probably the exact same moment that I realized that I want to spend my life dedicating it to protecting the natural environment.
Yeah. Being from Texas, we don't see as much manufacturing here, but I do see a lot of oil drilling
Oh
companies
yeah.
and stations. So yeah, I really relate to what you experience. My next thing is, what interested you in wanting to become an internet self specifically?
Well, this one's all because of my mama, really. My mom has been a teacher for over 35 years. And so I always just grew, I basically learned how to count by helping her like grade certain projects, like the homework cards and like some multiple choice questions on her tests that she would give her students and stuff like that. And she's a science teacher. So I like have always been really interested in like the backside of education, like what really is involved. To inspire and to educate next generations. You know, each person is different, so each person, it's like an individual puzzle, really. So like figuring out what works for individual students, and I just always loved that like hands-on aspect of making a change. So like I grew up really into like doing education stuff. I started being like a teacher's assistant when I was 11, and I did that all the way up until I was probably 14. And then I did community tutoring all throughout middle school and high school. So I just always loved the idea of educating. And I knew I didn't really want to be like a teacher directly, like being in a classroom every day, but you know, I had firsthand experience of just how much work teachers have to do
Right.
not in the classroom. And I knew that I wanted to help people who educate. So I love the idea that, you know, CELF is the Children's Environmental Literacy
Right.
Foundation. So, I mean, it's basically almost everything that I love. It's working with like younger generations. It's all about the environment and teaching kids and, you know, professors and teachers like what really goes into this kind of education. And I just love that it was a nonprofit. It really just kind of like checked all the boxes of what I was looking for, and it really gave me hands-on experience of boy. It really gave me like hands-on experience of like you know creating lesson plans, a lot of which are still on the CELF website. Doing a lot of like background research and things like that. So I really just loved how it all came together as part of like the mission statement for this
Yeah.
organization.
That's honestly amazing because I know a lot of people like they'll have their passion, but they can never really find like something that
Yeah.
involves the passion and is like doing something back for like their professional life. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
honestly really amazing.
It's actually kind of, I don't know, it was by complete coincidence that I came across this position as well. I think it was about 2, maybe even 3 years ago. I don't really quite remember. I went to a local holiday market with my grandma, and one of the people there was like selling jewelry. My grandma was a professional jeweler for a long time. So we were chatting for a while, and she is one of the best friends of like I don't remember her title, but Vicky Garufi, like
Yeah,
director of
yes,
something or
yes,
another.
yes.
And she was telling me about how her friend, like, kind of co-runs this organization. It's all about environmental education. And she was telling me that they probably have internships available. So honestly, I credit it completely to that holiday fair. Like, I probably wouldn't have even heard about it if I didn't buy a
Yeah,
necklace from her.
it's honestly amazing the way like you found self.
Oh, yeah.
My next question is, how did working at Self impact your professional life?
It's actually because of CELF that I have my current position.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, I'm like incredibly fortunate. I loved working at CELF. And it directly led me to this job, and I'll explain a little bit about that. So I was the education intern, sustainability education intern for the whole summer. I think it was 2 summers ago.
Okay.
And then because at that point I already graduated from college, I already graduated from my grad school program, I was able to kind of stay on for a couple of months as a sustainability education consultant. So I also did a lot of communications at that point. And as in that few moments or a few months, I mean, that I was a consultant for CELF, I was invited to go to the partner, like the annual partner meeting
Okay.
at then New York City Department of Education. So I went and I represented CELF, and I got to meet a whole bunch of other organizations that the New York City public school system works with. And in that meeting, they were talking about how they're hiring for sustainability specialists.
Oh,
And it's
wow.
basically the perfect continuance of
Yeah.
what I was doing at CELF. So it's all about sustainability education, working with teachers, working with students, working with like just various school stakeholders. So it like directly led me onto this path. And honestly, the best part about this is that because CELF is a partner of the New York City public school system, I still get to work with CELF in some
That's
capacity. So
amazing.
I still get to see them at some of the partner functions. I still get to be in regular communications. And I really, really love that because I grew so much as a person and
Right.
as a professional adult through this organization. I just love that I'm able to kind of still be in touch with those roots.
That's an awesome. Yes. That's really amazing that like as soon like you just basically got this amazing path where it was like self and then that immediately opened the door for something bigger in your life.
Yeah.
Another question I have for you is have you encountered a moment that like you felt self prepared you for?
I think so. I mean, I know so. There are many, many, many moments. Like I was saying before, a lot of the work that I'm doing right now is really very similar to what I was doing in CELF. It's just instead of being a bit more like general with educators in the
Right.
tri-state area, I'm really concentrated on the New York City public school system. But I think there's like one big thing in particular that CELF has prepared me for. It really is kind of just doing like background research on the educational system. So
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
period of time where I was doing a lot of research in California and preparing to work with the other organization that self works with a lot. I think it's called 10 Strands or something like
Okay,
that.
yes, yes.
And it was doing a lot of environmental research about like air quality in California, as well as doing education on various school systems throughout Southern California based on like um, economic need index, access to green infrastructure, blue infrastructure, things of that nature. So it was really, really thorough research. I had a ton of spreadsheets. I was doing a lot of work with GIS, which is like geographic information system or something
Okay,
like
yes,
that.
yes.
It's essentially like a mapping tool that a lot of organizations will use to have like various visual maps of their work and stuff like that. And
Right.
so I was doing a lot of work. That's like really one of the main things that I did while I was a consultant at CELF. And basically all of those skills that I acquired while doing that research is very similar to like a big part of my work in my current position. So I do a lot of research on like equity need indexes throughout New York City. And New York City has
Yeah.
really, really vast disparities throughout economic needs. And so, not to mention like doing air quality analysis and things of that nature. So, like, very, even though it's completely on the opposite side of the country, it's the
Yeah.
exact kind of skill set. And I did a little bit of that when I was in college, but it's always different when you're kind of studying it versus
Right.
actually doing it for a
Versus,
person.
yeah,
Exactly. So, I mean, I can't like credit 100% to CELF because I did do it in my undergrad, but probably like
a vast majority.
95%
Yeah.
of like the skills that I learned were from actually doing it for a few months, a couple of summers ago.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Okay, another question I have was what was one of your favorite memories while working at Self?
Oh gosh, just one? I mean, I have a lot of different fond memories. The entire summer and few extra months as a consultant are fond memories in my professional experience. Just, personally, I like got very close with the other interns. I still talk with them sometimes. I love doing like
Awesome.
lunch walks. It was such a great area just to kind of take a break around
Yeah.
the lake and stuff like that. But I think one of my favorite memories was really just being able to like represent self at various like professional functions that I went to. So, like for instance, while I was a consultant, like I said, I was able to represent the Children's Environmental Literacy Foundation when I went to the partner meeting. I also went to like a climate change conference that I was able to kind of talk about self at, which was really great. So I don't know, just I love the fact that it's kind of like a smaller team and
Yeah.
it was all in like the same area, or at least like the in-person team in New York. It
Right.
was like a very small office, so we were all working together. And you know, every day that we were in the office, there were dozens of times where I was able to like have very quick but meaningful conversations with people
Mhm.
because we were all working together at the same
Yeah.
time at the same place, and there was like no walls or anything like that. So it just made for like general very like very incredible like team bonding um like moments. It feels like all of the accomplishments that self did while I was like a summer intern, I was like an active participant in.
Right.
um and I loved being a part of making progress. And so yeah, I mean, I don't know if that really answered the question or not, but I loved the team. I still love the team.
Yeah.
I love working with them. I still love working with them. And it's such an incredible group of people where like it's first and foremost led by passion.
Right.
Um, and like I wouldn't change that for the world, honestly.
Okay, and then my last question for you today is what advice do you have for current or future self slash young adults wanting to enter the sustainability field?
That's a good question. I feel like I don't have a lot of things on top of my head.
Hmm.
Just from like my personal journey, at least I personally got a lot of questions about why I wanted to go into the environmental field.
Hmm.
And a lot of people were giving me almost like a warning of sorts, like it
Okay.
doesn't pay that much. Like, why are you going
Right.
into like the field? Like everything is based off of like certain practices. If you want to go into this field, you're gonna have to convince millions of people to change their livelihoods and things like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of field that is driven like by passion, like I was saying before. So if you're not passionate for it, it's going to be hard for you to kind of like keep up that climate optimism
Right.
because every now and then I just kind of end up climate doom scrolling, and it kind of takes a bit of like an emotional toll on me. But at the same time, it's really important for me to kind of like keep up to date and aware of like what's actually happening throughout the
Right.
world. And it's kind of like a weird relationship because the the worse news I get, the more inspired I am to take
Yeah.
knowledge. And so just like navigating navigating that relationship really between climate pessimism and climate optimism is really important. Just because it's really easy to kind of get distracted by like the politics of it
Yeah.
and just like trying to make a livelihood and things of that nature. And, you know, just keep your passion close by. Like, remember all the time why you're doing this, why it's so
Yeah.
important. Remember the climate optimism. And honestly, like if you don't love a challenge, this may not be the field for you. I personally love puzzling and I love like being challenged by
Yeah.
something. And I don't think there is any greater challenge or puzzle than solving climate change. So, you know,
Completely
it's
agree.
something where it's like every single time I see a positive piece about environmental action somewhere, specifically in New York City, because that's kind of where it relates to my job, it just
Right.
immediately gets me so pumped and so excited. And so, yeah, I think that's probably like the biggest thing that I really want to say is just like look for the good news and like use that as fuel. Even use the bad stuff as fuel. Just like remember why you're doing this and why it's
Right.
important, and everything will fall into place if you keep that passion close by.
Awesome. That's honestly truly amazing advice. Well, I want to thank you again so much for taking the time to meet with me today. I know you have a busy schedule, so I'm glad I was able to squeeze in some of your time there.
Thank you. It
Of
was so
course.
great. I love talking with like the current interns.
Yes. I loved getting to know you. I've heard so many amazing things about you in the office, so I was just so happy to
Oh,
finally
so sweet.
meet you.
Thank you.